them to hang out in water. Depends.
Yeah, my ex was really into the idea of living on a boat.
Huh.
So like she did all this research and stuff, and like people have little nets on the back of their boat where the cat could like catch onto if they fell off and like get dragged
Huh.
along with the boat. But the
Oh my
way
gosh.
like some cats can swim, some cats can't, and the way you find out
True.
is you throw your cat in the water.
All right. It's the way you find out. It's not
Yep,
like a different breeds of cat thing. It's just like it's individualized down to the cat by cat basis.
I have no idea. I never looked into it that far.
Oh my
Never threw a lot
gosh.
of cats in water. All right, so we are live.
Super cool.
This is Campaign Trail. I'm Rich, longtime DM.
I'm Tristan, halftime DM, part-time DM,
So
halftime show DM.
we missed uh, we missed a week or so.
We did.
So you got 2 weeks to catch me up on.
I do. Let's see here. So the week before, so there's yesterday, and then there was the week before. The week before, um, we had talked kind of outside the show briefly about how quickly the um, the party reached floor number 9 when they started on floor number 2. And I thought they were going to average 1 floor per session, and they rocketed right to the top very quickly. It's kind of a snow. One of the players I was talking to outside of the game pointed out it's kind of a snowball effect. I
Mhm.
hadn't fully prepared a couple of the floors, so if they go through like a floor quickly and then they hit an unprepared floor, that goes even more quickly because there's
Right.
less prepared to go through.
Hmm.
So they got to the end of that pretty quick. And then we had a discussion previously about one character having these dangerous abilities, being like a kind of pseudo mutant vampire with like a winter soldier kill phrase.
Right.
And there was some discussion. I just wanted it to be dramatic. I
Hmm.
wouldn't, well, I wasn't looking to get rid of this person's abilities per se, but like having the party vote them out. Um, because if I think an aspect of the game is problematic or overpowered, I will just go to that player privately and say, "Hey, let's retool this." Look, if I want to take something
Yeah.
away, I'll just take it away. I'm not going to like jerk you around.
Right.
So I just wanted to feel dramatic. That player came to me and says, "Hey, it really feels like you were, kind of singling me out and trying to take away my cool thing." And I'm like, "No, um, no one." And that was that. So the week prior, actually, we missed the game because my sister had her 21st birthday.
Oh, nice.
Happy birthday to her. And then we got back into it last night this week. So we picked up right where we left off, floor number 9.
Out of
The
12, was it?
Out of 10.
Out of 10.
So
Oh,
you're right up on it. But I kind of tacked on like one extra little room before the boss fight after this, so they could have a little more meat on the bone. So, um, an ally of theirs that was once an enemy caught up with them. This assassin named Massacre Girl, and in the parlance of Ravnica, she is a member of the Rakdos cult, a guild that is um, made up of caterers, entertainers, and like cheap labor, but also like thrill kill assassins and like a literal murder cult devoted to a demon. Um, but hey, that's just life in New York. I mean, Ravnica. Um, like kind of like the Church of Scientology. Now that I think about it, it's just like, oh yeah, they're a murder cult, but it's fine. They make pretty good movies. That's just part of life and death. So Massacre Girl was an infamous killer who they encountered in a kind of prison break arc that they did like a year or two ago, and they did a boss rush room where Frankie Peanuts, the incredibly rich kind of magnate who once ran the bank in Ravnica, and then jumped ship after Kaya the Socialist took over the Orzhov, his guild. Took all his riches with him, along with a number of other rich people under his employ, and created this Tower of Doom in a pocket dimension to try and wait out this change in leadership. And so the team goes in to take him out. So floor number 8 is a boss rush. It's just like nostalgia fodder of all of these different like boss level enemies from different arcs of the campaign. So the very first one was this Krasis, this big mutant that was like the kind of overarching boss in the very first arc, like episode 1 or 2. Episode 2, technically, because the very first one was actually Krenko's Way, the pre-written module that Wizards put out for the Ravnica book. Got them into the campaign to begin with. Let me see here. So the mutant Krasis pops out of this coffin in this big like theater, like a big what is it? Not a theater, a funeral parlor. It's a replica of the funeral parlor where Frankie Peanuts like had a funeral service for it, an NPC they liked in episode 2. A Viashino of the Izzet Guild, who's like the crazy like elemental wizards guild, who also do like public works and infrastructure. And he was kind of like a McGruff the crime dog, like an after school special type character, where he's like his specialty is PR and riding around on a floating hoverboard and being like totally extreme, kids. Remember, wear a helmet. And so in the very first episode, they were able to summon him for help fighting Krenko, and he's like, "You got it, buds." He flies in his hoverboard and he casts a fireball, and when the smoke clears, he's just dead. He's exploded himself. He's like in the crater like Yamcha, just like kind of sprawled out. So like, he's dead, and I'm like, yeah, he died. And so a very short-lived character, but I guess a fan favorite for the party. And so they're in this funeral parlor, floor number 8, and Frankie says, like, he gives some speech and implies there's going to be a boss rush. And then the coffin pops open, and they're like, "Oh no, he's resurrected Jake Coldfire!" And I'm like, "Well, that's way better than my idea." And that episode ended on a cliffhanger with the big mutant Krasis coming out, and this fallen angel who used to be part of the Boros was killed and then resurrected by the Orzhov as like an evil assassin, is also up there too. And she looks at Vali, the former Gruul, now Boros character, whose mother was an angel, he found out, in kind of a Darth Vader fashion, which was kind of wrapped up in that Fallen Angels arc, where they defeated the Fallen Angel and reunited with his family. And so she has a huge grudge against him and his family, this other angel. So she's like, "Hey, mama's boy." She's got like a deadly looking sword. So they start with those two, and then it's cliffhanger. We come back next week. The fight starts against the big mutant and the evil angel. And we have like Frankie buzz in like over the intercom. He's like, "Oh man, I totally should have resurrected Jake Coldfire. That's a way better idea. Hang on. Hello, acquisitions? Yes, I need crypt number 4. Yes, delivery to, yes, right away, please." And they're like, "Oh no." Next round, of course, it's just Jake Coldfire pops out, but because he's hastily resurrected, he's basically just a zombie, like with no other special statistics. However, I put on some like sad music, like the final boss music from Dark Souls 1, like the blin blin blom, do 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 do. And basically I gave him regular zombie stats with the draconic aura of fear ability, but it's an aura of despair. Like seeing him just makes everyone who knew him very, very sad and gives them disadvantage.
That's so awesome.
So they keep trying to, the sorcerer tries to put him out of his misery, and there much laughs were had by that, because it's sad, but it's sad for the characters, like, but kind of fake sad, half sad for the players who are like, "Oh, that's funny that it's sad." And the sorcerer tries to fireball him, but he lives. So it's like this horrible drawn out thing where they're trying to put Jake Coldfire out of his misery, and Jake Coldfire finally goes down with like the Terminator thumbs up, like, "You can do it, dude." So he was part of the fight too. So part of the boss rush was just me dredging up old enemies the players would recognize and just tossing them in to that combat. They had a special guest star. Krenko showed up because he was the first villain technically. They actually killed the real Krenko, and as part of the resolution of the first quest, originally they let Krenko go, and they had a fake Krenko like stand-in go to prison for him, like an actor, a goblin actor. And then later, Krenko was in the wild and attempted to get back at the party for, ruining his business venture, and they slew him for real this time. So the only remaining real Krenko is the fake one in prison that they put there, who's just kind of a really, really method actor. And he was like pretty pleasant to them when they met him in prison during that prison break arc. But when Frankie's money basically knows no bounds, and so fake real Krenko shows up like crowd surfing on a horde of goblins that pours out of the coffin, and Volley's like, "Oh great, you're here to kill us too? Like, let me guess, Frankie paid you?" And he's like, "That's show business." He didn't end up doing too much. He did disable the loading rig that the sorcerer had been using, because they took that from Krenko in the beginning and he's been modifying it over time. And I was like, oh, I think he'd have some familiarity with that and be able to like temporarily disable it. The sorcerer player didn't like that as much. He's like, that's totally a called shot. He should have disadvantage or whatever. And I'm like, well, in my mind, I was trying to keep myself from saying, just go with it. Okay. But outside, I'm like, okay, I'll roll again. But I crit on the second shot. So he's like, he should have. I don't know.
Sometimes the dice know what's going on.
There's a fine line, right, between something that feels fair and feels unfair. I think everyone knows to a degree that like when you run out of like road to run on, you're kind of like building the track in front of you, and there's a certain degree of bullshit that players will tolerate just because it feels, organic. I don't know, and I guess I crossed the line there. Maybe if I had phrased it differently.
When you take away someone's
he's got a special
toys,
weapon.
Yeah. When you take away someone's toys, it never feels good.
No. All I did was, I didn't like say, oh, your loading rig is destroyed. I just said he hits you in a special spot and it temporarily disables the movement of the loading rig. So you have to make a check to, hotwire it.
Right.
He's like, okay. I don't know. That same session also, like, it might be that, we had I just stopped the action for a second because the Boros player was fighting the angel, and she, like, I had built her as kind of like, I lifted some abilities from like the revised ranger stat block, because I liked the idea of her name as an angel is vengeance. So I like the idea of her just being focused completely on one thing, which is taking revenge on that player, that character. So she has him as her favored enemy, and she has like advantage to hit him if he's below, full health, like the frenzy ability that sharks have. And she has like a special sword that she's put like oil of sharpness on to hit him real good. And I rolled pretty good a couple times because automatic dice rollers can do that. Right. And he's like, this is fucking bullshit. You're fucking targeting me. Like, I fucking can't stand this. And like, I leaned over and like click, like turned off the music. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And he admitted that he was dealing with some like real life stuff that was kind of impacting the game and making him take it out on us. And I'm like, well, let's take a minute, and if you need to cool down or whatever, that's fine.
That's
and after
awesome.
that, he was okay after that, thankfully.
That's super awesome. Not a lot of GMs can do that.
Yeah, it's you kind of cultivate an atmosphere when you put on a little show like that, and you can kind of tell when the atmosphere is off. That player in particular, I don't know, he has some issues sometimes. I'm not sure how much I should talk about this on a podcast because I'm not here to dump on people.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think that's plenty said, and like how you deal with it is more interesting, I think, than
I agree.
What the problems are, because
Agreed.
people have problems, and people's problems are all sizes, but they're always biggest to themselves. So
it's absolutely true. Hugely true. Fucking all right, so I'm dumping enemy after enemy after enemy on them. Halfway through that fight, they get like a radio call from the Sending Stone, from the Orzhov goon squad, who's supposed to be aiding the party, following them up the tower. And at this point, the Simic character has like an Aether Vial, which he had used some downtime to construct, like a magic item that could like basically put a creature in a Pokeball, and then he could like Capsule Corp summon it out. So he had a Krasis of his own that he had made, and I kind of made up like my own downtime activity for that. We talked about this during the Eldrazi fight, I think, where he botched like 1 out of 3 rolls to make it so now whenever he commands it, he needs to roll an animal handling check. Otherwise, it's going to take a bite out of him, because it's kind of like the raptors or whatever in Jurassic World.
Nice.
Like an Indominus. It's like an intelligent creature. So he Pokeballs that out, and his Krasis fights the evil Krasis. So that's like a cool kaiju battle. And the Goon Squad radios up. It's like, hey, we're right behind you. Coming in hot. And they're like, okay, cool. And then a round later, they show up to help at the party, and the party's like, cool, thanks. And the Goon Squad's like, don't thank us yet. And because right behind them is the Minotaur robot undead Neheb, who's been chasing them the whole dungeon, who just keeps getting back up after they kill him, like the Terminator. So he joins the fight too. So it's a very chaotic battle where I'm juggling a lot of stuff, and it helps somewhat that helpful NPCs I can just kind of foist off on the players, like, okay, you're in control of this person, they go after your turn.
Right.
Like, you're in control of this NPC. You control this Krasis and this thing and that thing. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, it's early. I'm holding one back.
What else did they end up fighting? That thing? I threw a lot of shit at them.
Yeah, so what I like to do in a situation like that where I've got allies and enemies, I just start taking them off the board. Okay, Krasis versus Krasis, they're going to take care of each other. You know, troops versus goblins, they're going to take care of each other. And we're just going to say that they do damage to each other, and who's ever bigger is going to win, kind of thing.
Schmott. So that fight comes to a conclusion. They take out Neheb, finally. Like, they use an Arcana check to figure out how to permanently kill him, and they get him down. And then the sorcerer uses acid on his form to melt through his outer shell, and finally end him for once and for all. Once again, Terminator style. Going down. And then, because Frankie has no intention of letting up on these people, he summons Massacre Girl through like the portal in the coffin. He's like, basically, they can hear him the whole time the fight's going on, like chiming in over the intercom, like ordering in more stuff. Like, he's like I like this monster and that one, and then at one point they overhear him like ordering a pizza as well, and because he is unlimited money basically, and he's just using it all to summon bad guys. So he summons Massacre Girl, and it's not like he pays her per se. It's more like he pays her jailers to let her out and just wreak havoc. And Massacre Girl, for reference, is a magic card. She is 5 mana, and when she comes in,
she's called Massacre Girl.
That is her name. No one knows her actual name. She just, her shtick is that she's very famous and has a lot of imitators. And she's a 4/4 creature. So for reference, like a regular human being in Magic is either a 0/1 or a 1/1 creature, 1 power, 1 toughness, and she's 4 times tougher. So like Magic's kind of weird in the way it like structures power toughness as a representation of actual size or ability. Like a grizzly bear has 2 power, 2 toughness. A hill giant is 3. And Massacre Girl apparently is so mighty that she is 4. And she has this ability called Menace, which means if you want to block her, you have to commit at least 2 creatures to it, which means she's probably going to kill both of them. And she says when she enters, each other creature gets -1/-1. Whenever another creature dies, each creature other than her gets -1/-1. So it's a kind of cumulative effect. So if your enemy has like a bunch of 1/1s, like a bunch of 1 power creatures, she comes in, she wipes out all of them. That's 4 things with with 1 toughness that just died. So the other creatures all get -4/-4. So anything that's now other than her that is like 4 toughness or greater dies. And anything that's bigger than that left, it's like now like they're all getting -8. So it's like a rolling like snowball effect where she can wipe almost the whole board if you can count up like power among other creatures. So that's kind of representative of her ability in combat, which is that she's an incredibly deadly assassin. I actually statted her out as a monk because, like rogue assassin makes sense. I gave her like a couple of those abilities, but her flavorfully her, we're kind of like translating from mechanically, we're kind of looping around because mechanically she has this, and then flavorfully she has those abilities for a magic reason, and now in D&D she has these mechanical abilities for a flavorful reason because of those mechanical abilities. So it's like a weird meta reference, I guess. Like people are like, I played that card. And so I think being a monk, just allowing her to hit a great number of times and hurt things like to the nth degree, that seems more in line with her abilities. So she joins the fight, and Krenko looks up at her. He's like, oh, good, you're here to help us. You beat these guys, right? And she just looks down. She's like, because she's insane, and
Right.
she's like, I'm going to kill all you fuckers.
Right.
So she murders the goblins and like anything that's close in the party. The goon squad like sees her roll up, and because she's like an infamous, it's like a bunch of C or D-lister people are duking it out, and the Joker just suddenly shows up.
Right. Everybody's going to be dying with a smile on their face.
Yeah. These the goon squad looks at her, and they look at the party, and they're like, run! They just need to get the key off the dead Krasis and then book it to the door and get it out of there, because they don't actually want to fight Massacre Girl, because she was a very tough boss.
I like that the creature kills your own creatures too.
Yeah,
it's a very cool card. I like stuff like that.
Me too. So Massacre Girl shows up, and the party's in agreement that they do not want to anger Massacre Girl. They're like, she'll probably go for whatever's closest first. So as long as we don't attack her, we'll probably be fine. So they're all like trying to maneuver around the battlefield, book it to the door, get the key. And, while she's tearing through these other enemies that are pouring through. And the sorcerer like takes a pot shot at her as he goes for the door, and like it like hits her in the shoulder, and she just like turns like achingly slow to look at him, like when you're it's like in a video game when you get into a dangerous area and like the HUD pops up, it's like objective survive.
Nice.
So she books it for them, trying to take them out before they get in the door, and they all pile in just as she gets there and like puts the knife like right in between the elevator doors and like it slides away. And then something else came through the portal right before they booked it, but they didn't get to see what it was. And that was floor number 8. And then floor 9 was what we talked about with the Winter Soldier. The other Winter Soldier scene, because I had like fucking 2 references to that. They are in a beautiful like indoor community park that Frankie has decadently constructed on this level, kind of using like spatial technology to make it bigger on the inside. So it's rolling hills and babbling brooks and like artificial sunlight coming down. And they used a lot of resources healing themselves up, and because they just had a big long boss fight. And as soon as they get out, the cleric fully heals up because she's now in sunlight and she has like these plant powers. I'm like, oh, you're fully healed. She's like, oh man, I used all those fucking potions to heal myself like up to 2/3 full already. Damn it. So the key to that level to get out to the next one, like because they've been collecting keys 1, 2, 3, 4 on each level up, is right in front of them as they exit, and it's not even hiding.
Right.
Well, that's suspicious. And it's going to be a 10-minute walk to get to the other side. So, as they're walking, Frankie chimes in over the intercom, and he starts, talking about the park and how it took so much to build. And I went ahead and looked up the kill phrase for the Winter Soldier and started working those words into his little speech. And the last 3 were just like, he just literally just said benign 9 boxcar, like out of hand. And then I talked with William, I don't know why there was like an episode or 2 ago where I was like, we'll call this guy W.
Right.
And I'm like, whatever, who gives a shit? I talked with Will before we started the game about how, hey, I want to do this dramatic scene. I'd like your permission to, do a no save scenario for your character. So fight's pretty short actually, because the party is pretty high level and they deal a lot of damage. And even though William's character is tanky, Brian's crits him first round, so that's like 9/10 of his health just gone.
Right. And it's 3 versus 1, right? Or 4 versus 1?
He did have allies, and I was able to. It was kind of scary the first round because I mind controlled like 2 out of 3 of them before they could get around, and then the druid kind of used an AOE to shake him out of it, and so they damaged each other a little bit, and they bring down William's character, and so now there's this like drama unfolding where they're like, oh my gosh, she's been mind controlled, that she has this kill phrase because she got infected by the Simic mutant in the Undercity arcs and arcs ago. And now it's come home to roost because Frankie used like his money and connections to buy the kill phrase for those Simic mutants that the Simic had dumped in the Undercity so long ago. And if he says that phrase again, then he can activate her again. So I'm like, okay, I'll give that player the option. I mean, ultimately, the party agreed that the decision rested with William, whether or not, and then they would role play it out, like choosing to reincarnate him into a different form or resurrect him as is. So, and then they got to take a week off because my sister's birthday happened, so they had more time to think about it. That cliffhanger kind of hung in the air for a long time. Yeah. We come back last night with a character catching up to them. At first, they think it's Ivana, the Goon Squad leader, Ivana Getov. Very dumb name. Because there's like this full helmet on, but actually it's Massacre Girl, who has somehow gotten a hold of that person's armor, which probably means they're dead, honestly. Maybe. And she helps them take out the alpha clones, the clones of this cleric, like these other Simic mutants that just like look like her, like John Carpenter's The Thing. It's a very unnerving fight. And Massacre Girl helps them just because she likes killing things. And she reasons that if she kills Frankie, then Frankie cannot pay her jailers, and then she doesn't have to go back to jail. So she joins forces with them, and she's like, hey, I stole this diamond off one of those Goon Squad guys. You can use it to res your friend here. So
hang on a second, you froze.
This is super dangerous. I don't really want to go through that again. As a character, I don't want to go through that again. I'm like, okay, well.
You want to start that over from the diamond?
Yeah. So Massacre Girl gives them a diamond that she stole from one of the Goon Squad members and says, you can use this to resurrect your friend. And so I talked with William outside of the game and other players as well, apart from Brian, who never seems to want to engage outside the game, which kind of bums me out, but some people are busy, I guess. So I talked with most people, and it seemed like a pretty foregone conclusion that they were going to resurrect the cleric rather than reincarnate them, let them keep the vampire powers, because William had a lot of fun building his character around these abilities. And, you know, and I reassured him that I wasn't trying to take it away. I was just like, you are cursed, and it should feel like a curse.
Right.
Like, this isn't like a fucking 2002 Fox TV show where being a vampire is cool and sexy. Like, it's a curse.
Right.
So, like, you're not Blade, you're Crovox for people who play Magic. So, foregone conclusion, they're going to resurrect him. There were some protests from the Boros player who's like, my character doesn't want to go through that again. That's so dangerous. I don't want to have to go through fighting that person again. And we shouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's your vote. And the rest of the party was like, no, man. You know, William should keep his thing. William's like, I want to keep my thing. Like, I don't want to rebuild my character. I'm like, okay. More fool me for giving him that option when I probably should have realized he was enjoying it too much. But They
Well,
go with
but
that.
still, the decision is relevant and it weighs on everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy decision to make, and I think that just putting that out there like gave them opportunity to like get into character more and feel that struggle.
Yeah. That was the goal. That was the goal. It what the problem was when it became out of character when the player like offered up their protests.
Mhm.
Which is, well, what are you gonna do?
Right.
What are you gonna do? All right. So they join forces with Massacre Girl, and she goes over and she reveals one of the other Goon Squad members, a crawl, a bug person named Bill Davis, who is basically just an accountant, like a joint liaison for the Azorius Law Guild and the Orzhov Banking Guild, who's part of the Goon Squad, and he's a cleric as well. And she asks him to resurrect Alpha, and so he takes the diamond. He's like, "Oh, I lost a diamond like this very recently. Thank you." He's like missing one of his arms, and like when she reveals where she's been hiding him, he's like, "Not again, please." um, and Masker Girl makes him res her, the other cleric. So she gets back up, and they have some role play, some good one-on-one, and then they move on to the next level. And I introduced another player who actually was the cousin of the sorcerer's player and had been itching to play for a while. I hadn't seen him in forever. He's really fun, great to be around. He's just like a very chaotic, like not chaotic stupid, but just like he's interested in like like he loves built like items like the deck of many things
Mhm.
or like genie wishes, and like if bad things happen, he's like cool.
Right. Nice.
Even if they happen to his character.
Mhm.
So doesn't mind that kind of stuff. So I work with him to build his character, and he is playing an NPC as an NPC that the party had encountered a couple of arcs ago in another world. And so it was very surprising for them to see him there. And like I kind of worked with him off screen to build a backstory for why his character would be there and what happened to him after the party had met him. So he's playing as a Kambal Consul of Allocations, who is another magic card. He's a 3-mana human advisor. And whenever your opponent plays a non-creature spell, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. So he's like a taxation effect and also a taxation character in the lore. He moves the money around on this other world, Kaladesh. And the party defeats the consulate, like the one world government that kind of was propping him up. And he begs for his life and gives them a bunch of money to go away, and they spare him. And I work with him, and I say, after the fall of the consulate, fleeing the new Aether Revolt, like citizens' government, you make a deal with a Kaladesh demon, and you are transported off world because this demon has had dealings with Frankie Peanuts, and needs to pay a debt to him. So you're going to work for Frankie. So behind the scenes, Kambal's been living in this gilded cage, the next floor up, floor 9 3/4. On the other end of the room there's a door. This is big, like a big metal door. This is number 10, which is the boss room. And in between them is just like a 40-foot square room with a bunch of like glass cubicles. Like the walls are all made of glass, and you can see everything that's within it. And there's like a bunch of furniture strewn around. It's like this really nice. There's lots of nice things here. Like it's like a living area, and it becomes clear this is where the allies of Frankie, the other rich folk who abandoned Kaya's New Orzhov, were staying. And it looks like I guess Frankie didn't need them anymore because they're all dead, and they're just like strewn around, like blood smeared everywhere. And there's this horrible monster, a cadaver collector, which I think came from Tome of Foes. And it's walking around like Terminator style, just like picking up corpses. And it's like this big metal golem with like spikes that come out of its back. And it picks up these corpses and it just stabs them like shish kebabs onto the spikes on its back, and it's just like collecting cadavers. And there's like a gaggle of specters that follow in its wake that it conjures from people that it kills. So it's like a really deadly, scary enemy. And I don't think the party couldn't have beaten it. It would have like taken a chunk of their resources for sure. So I have a tense like stealth section where I'm like, okay, so the room is only 40 feet across. If you wanted to crash through all the windows, you could make it to The other door, no problem, because Alpha still has the key from the last level, because Kambal came down from this level and opened the door for them. And then joined forces because Frankie betrayed all the people working for him and was trying to get Kambal killed with the other rich folk. And he's like, well, I guess I'll betray Frankie. So they need to get across this room. And so I think a little bit on the fly, I'm like, you can make it across in 3 rounds if you want to like stealth through. You have to like hide behind furniture because the walls are all made of glass, and you have to like go slow to avoid catching the notice of this thing as it kind of roves around, kind of randomly checking corners and stuff. So I put in some nice, creepy, stealthy music. Typhon Voices from Prey was a good pick here. It's like a good atmospheric, dark, ambient song. And they just have 3 rounds of we need to get to the door. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so they're going to get to the door and they're going to open the key to the door. The door is going to be very loud and bright. It's going to light up. It's going to make a lot of noise. So they'll have to.
Right.
They're going to get 1 round of combat on this thing before they can get away. And they come up with the idea. It's like, what if the wizard casts a spell to distract it and like summons a monster to fight it, to like keep it off our backs? I'm like, okay, so you'll forego your stealth check that round, and if its check beats your average like group party stealth check, then it'll go for him because it sees him but not the rest of you. And
Okay.
the sorcerer, and I tell the sorcerer who had it out with the wizard on level 7 because he found out the wizard was responsible indirectly for his parents' deaths. I'm like, oh, Louis, you have an intrusive thought, and for a moment you're like, oh, the wizard would make a great distraction, and it'd be great if that monster took him out. And the sorcerer's like, yeah, no problem, go for it, buddy. So the wizard uses we had like a funny little thing where he's like, he checked his inventory and he did have an insect sample in his inventory because he's like a simic scientist. I'm like, yeah, I'll roll for it. You have a scorpion. You can summon a giant scorpion with giant insect. He's like, cool. I shake the jar. I'm like, oh, the scorpion glares at you with hatred. He's like, oh no. So he summons the scorpion. The door lights up. The party stealths over there. They try to get in as the door is making huge amounts of noise. It catches the cadaver collector's attention, but it's already fighting the scorpion, so it buys them a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
I have the wizard jump through the glass and take a bit of slashing damage to avoid getting hit by the monster. It's like you can take a hit from the monster and run away, like dodging around corners, or you can just jump through the glass and get to your friends and take some slashing damage. And he opted for the slashing damage. It took like 15. It's fine. Because this thing hits like a truck.
Right.
Which is great. And I flavored that the scorpion was chasing the wizard too because it hated him. And they all make it across as the Terminator monster like closes in on them. And then they enter the boss room, which I was not as prepared for as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But let me switch cameras. You can take a look at the battlefield. Change camera. Oh, it's not plugged in. I'm a genius. Yep. So, my friend Jevin, who plays the druid in my campaign, came to me a few weeks ago, and he's like, I have a present for you. And he gives to me a big playmat.
Nice.
And a bunch of little like set dressing like tokens you can put on there, like torches and chairs and furniture and like little clip-on things you can add, and a bunch of like reversible playmats like for different terrains: indoor, outdoor, dungeon, castle, desert, forest, mountain, etc.
Nice.
And so I like that a lot more than the I was playing on a whiteboard and just like drawing and erasing like whatever, which was fine, but it was getting pretty grungy and kind of hard to see, and I don't know, having a little color is nice. So
yeah,
like we talked about, I had these 5 powerful artifacts that Frankie had airlifted, basically stolen from other planes using the portal technology that he had taken from the sorcerer, the scientist. And so I'm summoning minions through these things, like the circle of fire, which is basically like the round table from the artifacts are all taken from Eldraine, which is like King Arthur world, like fairy tale world. So they have the circle of fire, the circle of loyalty, which is like a sigil on the floor surrounded by fire, which summons knights. And so I say that Frankie's corrupted it, and it's summoning like Phyrexian evil soldiers instead. And then you have the Great Henge, which is like Stonehenge, and that's like a portal as well. And I have summoned more minions through that, like just thralls, like Orzhov, like the putties from Power Rangers, but with wings, like flying monkeys. And he summons a couple swarms of those out of that thing. And I was hoping to have Neheb pop up in here, but they perma-killed him. It'd be great. I love like an ongoing enemy that just like follows you through the whole dungeon. That's a cool idea.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Let's see here. The Gumball, Dylan's character, the new player, opted to be a warlock, having made a pact with the demon back in Kaladesh to save his life. And he summons a demon of his own. Summon Greater Demon. And it makes a charisma save every turn to like break free of his control. But luckily, the demon he summoned has like -1 charisma, so it's never going to break that. So, and then there is a chalice in the corner that's like a big jacuzzi size, like black stone chalice, and that's basically the Holy Grail, but it's like black mana flavored, so it's kind of like evil. It's more like the Lazarus Pit in Batman, where you bathe in it and sacrifice someone else's life, and you can rejuvenate your life, your health. So Frankie uses that during the battle. Like he kills off one of his own swarms of like allied baddies, heals himself up, and even with that, they take him out in about 2 rounds.
Yeah,
but I'd already planned, like we talked about, to have him make copies of himself of baddies, and throughout the battle, it becomes apparent that there is something on the other side of the other artifact here, a giant magic mirror, which is like Merlin's magic mirror. Basically, it's like 100 feet tall. This massive thing, and it's acting as some kind of portal. Halfway through the battle, Massacre Girl is like taking out foes left and right, and then this giant like draconic arm reaches out of the portal and just like grabs her and like takes her away. Like
awesome.
The portal. He's like the dragon. Like only Louis, the sorcerer, understands draconic, so he hears this voice. He see like Massacre Girl kill someone in an impressive way, and the draconic voice is, "Ooh, how impressive! I may have use for you yet." And then it just snatches her away. So she's out of the fight, and they'll probably see her again later in some other form, perhaps. And it becomes clear that they're being watched, essentially, by this other party who's helping Frankie in some way. Frankie's like bargaining with it and asking it for help periodically. And the draconic voice on the other side of the portal seems somewhat unimpressed with him so far. So it's like it's clear he's on thin ice. Like we talked about, he's like, this far away from your usefulness has ended. And I figure that's coming soon. So they kill Frankie, and then the blue magic of the mirror activates and creates like a copy of Frankie. And he looks kind of glitchy, and he picks up another legendary item that's laying around, this trident that's like the stolen symbol of Simic authority, like the Blue-Green Guild in Ravnica. And he wails on the rogue who has fallen prone, and he crits him. And because it's a magical trident, I just went ahead and used the stats for Wave, the trident from White Plume Mountain. And when you crit with Wave, you take necrotic damage equal to half your hit point max. So I'm like, he crits you, and I'm like, oh, he's like, cool, how much do I take? And I'm like, you're probably dead. I tell him what he's going to take. He's like, oh, please, no. And like, I think the druid had 1 inspiration left, so they re-rolled that, and it still hit him, but he took just a healthy amount.
Right.
2
normal
hits.
Damage, not crit.
Yep. And let's see, what was the other artifact? Oh yeah, Ember Cleave, which is basically the sword in the stone, or Excalibur. In that world. So he's walking around wielding these artifacts and just calling in all this stuff. And the session ends because it goes late into the night with the assassin who had once betrayed them, wearing the same armor of the killer who once tried to take out Frankie back when he was allied with the party. I do a duplicate of the scene where they Frankie has the upper hand over the rogue. He's like, I am beyond life and death. Like, my wealth has bought me eternal life. He's villain monologuing, and they see a direct callback to that scene from the first arc.
Mm-hmm.
They see the red lasers dance up his lapel and onto his chest, and a couple bullets hit him in the chest, and he staggers back. And crashing through the skylight in the decadent, Aetherborn Kaladesh filigree armor is their former comrade Tommy, the Dimir assassin, who like Batman crashes to the skylight and skids to a halt on his metal boots with his cape flapping behind him and takes aim at Frankie, and he's like, time to finish the job. Because it's a reverse of the scene where they defended Frankie from the assassin, and the assassin was there to finish killing Frankie. And that is, I believe, where we called it.
That's awesome.
A lot happened. It was a very long fight, and so short to summarize. But the druid joked. He's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and command my zombies to move here. I'm going to cast a spell, and then I'll see you in 30 minutes when it's my turn again.
That's 5e at later levels. I mean, there's not too much of a way around that.
That's what it is.
Especially with analysis paralysis and so many abilities. There's almost a temptation to put a timer on it.
Right. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Matt Mercer's when I'm watching him sometimes and they're like, oh, what do I do? He's sympathetic because they're his friends, but he's also he's in his mind, he's like, this is a TV show.
Right.
So outwardly, he's like, make a choice or pass your turn.
That's awesome. Yeah. I like to encourage the default action. What is your character going to do generally on a turn? Generically, Roger's going to shoot somebody, right? The mage might always cast a cantrip, So what's your fallback?
That's a good idea.
And then just assume they do that.
Schmott.
Yeah, it's hard to pressure people though, because like you said, you feel for them. You're like, yeah, I know you got a lot of abilities. I'm staring at 4 stat blocks right now.
Literally.
And I know even when we're playing, I will take up a good 5 minutes sometimes deciding what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how did your players feel about you taking the kill from him?
Taking the kill?
Yeah, they didn't get to kill Frankie Peanuts.
They, I was kind of dancing around that. Because I wanted to get to another round so that Frankie could activate another layer action and make a copy of himself still in the battlefield, because that feels better.
Mm-hmm.
So I rolled with it, and it became more like Nicol Bolas, the dragon. He's in control, so he's directing these artifacts, and Frankie's just the middleman. So they kill Frankie, and they're like, "Is Frankie dead?" And I'm like, "Frankie in front of you is dead." And
Frankie in front of you.
The Bloodhunter's Bloodhunter's like, I use my sense of smell. Do I smell Frankie anywhere else in this battlefield? I'm like, well, the sorcerer cooked him pretty good at that lightning, so it's like a barbecue. But you don't sense any other ones presently. But you're still in initiative. So they fight the mooks for half a round, and then in initiative count 20, another copy shows up. And when the assassin shows up late in that fight, he points out above the mirror, there is a mask that's keyed into it, another artifact, working in concert with it. And the mask belongs to another legendary creature in Magic called Sakashima. And Sakashima's ability is that he becomes a copy of any creature you play when he comes in, but the legend rule doesn't apply. in Magic, there's a rule called the Legend Rule, which says on your side you can only have one of a legendary creature of a certain name. So if you have a Thalia,
Right.
Guardian of Thraben, you can't have another Thalia Guardian of Thraben in because of time paradox. Like one of them has to go. So you sacrifice one as a state-based action when it comes in. But Sakashima, he's like master of cloning. So like he comes in, copies that thing, and then you can have two things as long as one of them is Sakashima copying it.
Right.
So Frankie has somehow gotten a hold of another artifact because that's his shtick, is that he's so rich he just has all the things. And the mask is up there feeding its power into the magic mirror. And Nicol Bolas is like using it to copy Frankie a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to dump a bunch of Frankie copies into the board. And the goal now, I think, is to get the mask off of the mirror, climb 100 feet up, tear it out of like the magic, like the force field that it's under, and then run it across the field into like the holy grail, like jacuzzi chalice, dunk it in the acid there. And that's how you like defeat all the clones.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's my thought.
Alternate battle conditions.
Yeah, I like that. I like battles that feel like a puzzle.
Right.
That's way more interesting to me than just like hit them real good.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially as the characters get harder. Right. Especially as the parties get higher, like it's not going to be a problem for them to take whatever you throw at them. And they've been just hitting stuff for what, 13 levels.
Yep.
So it's not getting boring for them, but it's the same routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to a player that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. But it's always more exciting when there's something else.
Definitely. Next week, then, if we get back into it on time, I'm looking at a pretty short battle finishing up here because they've done like 2/3 of it. I don't think I should add any other elements to this battle now that we're in the middle of it.
Right.
Maybe some more mooks, I don't know. And just like have them solve that puzzle. And then the rest of the episode's probably going to be downtime. They're going to level up. They're going to go back to their neighborhoods. And they're going to get ready for the next arc. And I had a couple ideas for like neighborhood, like solo scenes that could lead into like a one-off battle or something. Not a whole dungeon like this, obviously, but like maybe an enemy shows up and they can fight that as a result of their actions in their neighborhoods. Do some downtime, and then I got to start preparing for a whole other world. I need to make a map. Going to Ixalan. I'm going to actually use a map here, I think.
Yeah.
I think of the first island they land on.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely. And I'm not sure how much I should talk about it.
See, that's my favorite part, and it's my least favorite part because I like to procrastinate a lot. So I will push it right until 2 days before, and then I'm like,
"Oh, tell me
everybody
about it,
get the fuck out of my room."
Today, yesterday, I was literally I had the skeleton of the boss fight, thanks to you and I talking, and I had Frankie's stat block, and nothing else.
Yep.
Apart from these things are going to show up and it's going to look like this, and I'm like, well, it looks like this. Like, what are the numbers? So I pulled some stat blocks out of my ass.
Yep.
And just oh, this thing has 30 hit points. It hits for this much. It deals this much damage. This is its to hit. And I'm like, cool. That's a fight. Oh yeah, I kind of leaned have a little more heavily into Frankie. This area being his treasure trove. There's treasure lying everywhere. There's gold on the ground, and there's a big animatronic dinosaur and a giant coin, just like in the Batcave. So of course the giant dinosaur comes alive halfway through the battle. The giant coin detaches and goes rolling across the battlefield. That was fun, but I remember getting my headphones in, sitting down to say hi to the guys around 6 p.m. and being like, okay, I've got nothing. Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's funny because that same day, someone recommended a video for DM prepping on the fly, never prep again or whatever. I need to go back and watch that. It might have been a Sly Flourish video. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Eh.
Sly Flourish does, I think, an hour of prep a week for his game, and he does it on Twitch. And a lot of that is explaining. So he does probably about a half hour a week of prep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's about what it felt like yesterday. Just like I nailed on like one stat block, and like I picked up the monsters I was going to use, and I just laid down and napped for like an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think that's one of the hardest parts about 5e is the stat block. In older
Yeah.
editions, it was really easy to just throw some numbers together.
Yeah.
Oh, they're 4th level, so let's get a couple 4-hit die creatures in here. 4 hit die creatures do about this much damage, and they have +4 to hit. There you
Literally.
go. That's your stat block. What do they look like? It's up to you.
Got him, coach. So, downtime.
Yeah, that fits perfectly. Like, you've always got that little like neighborhood downtime thing to put at the beginning or end to pad a session out.
Exactly.
You don't have to fucking pick a combat that's going to last for 2 hours to eat up the rest of the session.
Literally. Well, they might if they don't pay their dues. They know that at the end of the session, like if they don't give back like the millions of gold they've picked up, that they're gonna have another boss fight waiting for them from the rest of the Orzhov.
Nice.
Who was like, "Hey, kill Frankie and please give us back our riches. Those are our riches."
And that would be insane if they went that direction. That would be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Be nuts.
Then they'd be on the run in Ixalan.
Verdammt. So, Ixalan. My thought is they have the downtime, they fight like the one boss monster I've got to wrap up like a character's backstory thing. And then they go to Ixalan. And what that's going to look like is Mizzix, the goblin engineer, like second in command of the Izzet, powerful wizard, is going to help them. Like, she's going to be their man in the chair, basically, like dunking them into the Stargate and then like kind of directing where they go. And at first, because it's Izzet technology, they're going to maybe end up in one random place and have like one fight against like people in a different world. I'm thinking Battle Bond, which was a one-off like supplementary set in Magic. So it's not like the mainline set where like there's a huge story going on. It's more of like it's like Magic the Gathering is like a release schedule equivalent of a beach episode. It's just tournament world. I can't remember the name of the fucking world. Not hugely memorable, but people really liked the set, and there were some memorable NPCs, and like the cards were fun to play. Battle Bond was the two-headed giant set, basically. So the tournament was you pick a partner and you're both on a team and you play against two other people at the same time, and like that was the whole rollout for that product. Lots of cards that partner with each other, and like you can cards that are expensive, but your partner can help pay for it, and really cool stuff. So I figure I'll drop them into a gladiator arena and fight these two NPCs, like two memorable legendary creatures from Battle Bond. I'm thinking either Will and Rowan, who are like these magical twins who are also from Eldraine, the King Arthur world. They're like red and blue mages specifically. They're brother and sister, and they're twins. So they share a Planeswalker Spark, which is like the special ability that in Magic the Gathering lets you walk the planes, go to different worlds. So like whenever they planeswalk, they have to go together. Or another pair that I had kind of messed around with, Gorm and Virtus. They're just these gladiator combatants. One's a giant who just wields a great shield as his weapon. The other is Virtus, like this little like tiefling or Azra assassin, who whenever he hits you, he only has one power, but if he hits you, you lose half your life, rounded up. So just little big tough guy, little skinny guy. Like I'm gonna put on the fucking Ornstein and Smo like Dark Souls music as they come in, and use like one of their quotes from one of their cards. Like the party lands in the middle of a gladiator arena, and of course, when people get teleported into the gladiator arena on this world, they fight each other. So naturally, these two powerhouses are gonna go at it and have some fun fighting them. Um, what's the line? Oh yeah, Gorm says, "Who are these, Virtus?" And Virtus says, "Nobody, Gorm, nobody at all," because they're not just like powerhouse like gladiators. They're like kind of celebrities,
Right.
really, because that's like the shtick of that world. So they have like that Hollywood like mentality, um, like like The Rock or fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin. Um, so I talked a little bit about with you as well as with the party a potential future arc where the party loses everything and they have to
Right.
like, do a survival arc and get back their stuff over time. That's going to be Ixalan, and the players know that to some degree. So I really want to do this cool fight on Battle Bond with Gorm and Virtus, but what do they get out of it if they lose all their stuff and they go to the next area? Is it worth including?
Um, I mean, the only value it has is narrative, right?
Yeah.
And the only narrative value it has is really an Easter egg of Battle World, right?
Yeah.
But like you've all chosen to play in the Magic the Gathering universe. So half of it is nods to that universe.
Literally.
Yeah.
Does a lot of work for me.
So it might be an interesting setup. Right? They get teleported in and they're like, no, you can't use your gear, you use our gear to fight.
Okay.
And then at the end they're teleported out with not without their gear. And that explains how their gear is gone.
Yeah.
And then they don't necessarily get their gear back. They get similar gear back.
Interesting. Because my thought was they get to Ixalan and there's some kind of mishap with the teleporter and they lose all their stuff, or like they're unconscious for a long time. They get looted. Someone dumps them on an island. They wake up an indeterminate amount of time later. And then I open up this map of this ocean, of these islands, and little ships on it. I'm like, hey, you can like roll on the encounter table and like travel to these ships. And on each of these ships, there's going to be a piece of your gear from like one of these pirates that took it. So like they get to go on side quests in addition to the main quest, basically.
Yeah.
And they get to roll to see what gear they get back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like I'll have a big list. Was my thought. Maybe they could get like. Maybe I should do. Maybe I could start doing the level up pips that you used in your game, and like maybe fighting Virtus and Gorm is worth a level up or worth a couple pips.
Yeah.
That way it feels like they're getting something out of it.
Well, how are you doing Milestone right now?
I am doing Milestone. I am.
Yeah, tell them. Say you're getting that's a quarter milestone for you right there.
Yeah.
You know, this is an event that's contributing to your next milestone.
Right. And I guess it got us to get. Do you feel like I need to start keeping track of how many pips they have, or just like start tossing it out when?
I mean, if you want to control their leveling, then yeah, you're going to need to keep track of it. But again, you can just say this is going towards your next milestone.
Yeah, can't do that.
And not give them at like a specific amount.
Yeah. Totally.
And then when they, I don't know, how many pirates do you have on this map?
That's a good question. I figure off the cuff, because they have a lot of gear, I could just say each ship has like 3 pieces of magic items on it at random that they could find that belong to them. And I'll just, I don't know, however many they want to hit, I guess. I'd really put a concrete number on it. Should I go through and count how many magic items they have and start dividing it up?
See, that seems like a hassle.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're going to make a table, you said, right?
Yeah.
Or
This
you
is
were
like,
you were interested in making a table at least.
yeah.
So you're going to have to do that anyway.
Or maybe it should just be like, maybe it's each time they beat a ship, they each find one item that belonged to them.
Yeah.
Like the cleric finds one of theirs, the wizard finds one of theirs, the rogue finds one of theirs, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think you
You
would have to do. You wouldn't have to. To be fair, you should give everybody something back,
Yeah, it's a good idea. And
because
it's
otherwise you run the chance of like, one person getting half their stuff back and another person has gotten nothing yet.
yeah,
And then
not
you
even
can't
a
give them a
bother with like,
choice. You can't say, "Oh, all the wizard's gear is here and all the sorcerer's gear is here," because then they have to make that
yeah,
choice. I mean, that's a good choice to make, but
it's not as fun.
it's losing that argument is not fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You know what is fun though? Getting to a pirate ship and fighting pirates that have your magic items and using it against you.
Yes.
Like
Yeah. So
finding a
you
pirate
would
who's like made
definitely
a name
want to
for
know.
himself.
You would definitely want to know what magic items they're going to get beforehand,
Defo.
and maybe
Yeah.
even
I had a couple.
style that fight around them. So like
So
the pirate
yeah,
that takes that magic item is already interested in stuff like that, and that's why they're taking that magic item. So
yeah,
they're already they have someone in mind for that magic item, or they're already themed around that magic item, so they get to use it to good
yeah,
benefit.
yeah. It's pretty cool.
And then I mean honestly, you could just take all their magic items and scatter them about on the island.
Yeah,
And you come across a, you know, tribe of goblins, and fucking one of them's wearing your helmet.
yeah. That was my thought. Was like they start on the island in the Pacific or whatever with nothing,
Mhm.
and then I have a couple different areas of the island where you know the sorcerer can go to this volcano where there's these crystals like etched everywhere, and he can grab a crystal and like strike it with lightning, and now it's an arcane focus.
Mhm.
Like the cleric can go and find like an old gravestone and pray there to get a holy symbol. Like the rogue can like fashion like spears something out of this material in this area. Like
Mhm.
the island's gonna have like a bunch of different like areas they can go to like to get like starter gear basically they can actually use it to get off, and then maybe a ship shows up or two ships show up and
Mhm.
the ships are fighting each other and they get to like pick a side like, oh, do you want to go with vampire conquistador faction or like cockney pirate faction,
Mhm.
and then that's like their first ship, and then they have a ship
Right.
and they get to the ship, that's cool,
Right.
and then they get to sail the seas and get their stuff back and then figure out what's going on with this world. And their guy in a chair can be like tearfully, I'm gonna cut off contact. I can manipulate like time between worlds so that like I can bring you back, like at a certain like right after you've left, but only if I like stop talking to you right now.
Yeah.
So that way we
Or
don't lose any time on
maybe
our world.
even make
And
the
you can bring up a
device
cure for this
gone.
diseased person.
That device is just
Yeah.
gone. You know. However, they were planning on communicating. That device is in some pirate's locker now because they don't understand
Yeah.
what it does.
Yeah. Because like the reason they're going to Ixalan, one is to get back Louis, the sorcerer's brother, who has been
Mhm.
stranded there for God knows how long, because he was a planeswalker. Like the whole like was revealed in like during the Kaladesh arc. There was this tearful scene where they come to this world full of magical technology. It's like basically because they're part of the Izek Guild, the technology guild,
Mhm.
crazy mad scientist guild, and the whole world is like if everyone was an Izzet person, but it's run by the Azorius, like the Law Guild. So there's all these inventions everywhere. It's beautiful, and they meet these other scientists that they fall in love with, and Louis' brother is like at this in the middle of a park, and there's this panharmonicon, like this automated music making device. Everyone hears their own special song when they come up to it, and like have this like kind of like peppy but somewhat somber music playing. It's like bittersweet music playing,
Mhm.
And the brother's like, Louis, I don't want to go. I don't want to go back to Ravnica. I'm like a wanted man there, and it's nothing compared to this place. I want to stay. I'll help you get home, but I want to stay with Rashmi, the scientist who's here. And they have like a beautiful heart to heart where Louis like, we're gonna get our parents back. I know they're still out there. We're gonna help you do whatever. I want you to live your own life. I'm gonna help you. And Louis' brother, the sorcerer's brother, is like so overwhelmed with emotion. That's how your planeswalker spark activates, by an intense rush of emotion. Like usually it's traumatic, like something really bad happens to you, like your parents get murdered, Batman style, or like you realize your world, like your life is a lie, like an Amonkhet when Samut, the warrior, realized her whole world had been co-opted by Nicol Bolas, the dragon god, and people being turned into mummies was actually his design to create an army of super soldiers. And like realizing that, so like intense emotion, like of joy, of pain, of whatever, can ignite your spark and cause you to planeswalk away to another world. So in the middle of this scene, Louis is there with his brother, and his brother is overwhelmed with emotion and hugs his brother, and then vanishes.
Nice.
In a flash of light, like he had seen other planeswalkers do. And that was the last time they saw him in the flesh. Louis used like a scrying machine to look for other planes where his brother might be, and found him on Ixalan, like stranded, like a Tom Hanks Castaway style, with like a long beard, and then just left him there for a couple arcs because other stuff was going on.
Right.
Oops. Oh well. So they're gonna find the brother. They're gonna go to these wacky islands full of God knows what. They're gonna fight a bunch of pirates and pirate ships. They're gonna have their own ship. I might have a subplot in there about like other things from other worlds showing up there that shouldn't be, like maybe a floating island from Zendikar is there. Maybe they meet Nahiri again or see her handiwork. There's a new magic item there they can pick up. And then they have my secret reveal, which I've only ever talked to one person about. I think I might have told you, where they meet Jace, the Guild Pact, the blue mage, who's like a main character in the Magic canon. And that's part of his arc too. He was on Ixalan with Vraska, the Gorgon, who's also from Ravnica. And then they team up with him against her because she's working for Nicol Bolas, the dragon god. And in the canon, Jace teams up with Vraska and they become fast friends and fall in love with each other. And then that arc ends. And then later, during War of the Spark, they team up against Nicol Bolas after she switches sides again. So I'm not sure. Oh man, I'm really excited about this reveal. I'm not sure if I should talk about it on this podcast, because if anyone ever picks up, I would hate to spoil it.
Wait.
I've got one thing I will say is I'm going to exclusively use SpongeBob background music for this arc.
Nice.
I've got the whole library of royalty-free SpongeBob music that they use queued up. I'm going to go through, label each one. This song is creepy. This song is atmospheric. This song is funny. This song is chase music. This is fight music.
Nice.
And Island World is going to be SpongeBob World.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have a couple things. I just need to start writing them the fuck down. And I need to do you think I should get some map software or like a map generator?
I mean, it depends on how much work you want to put into it.
Yeah. I mean, I want it to look nice.
Well, but you can just do a web search for island map and come up with 1,000 hits.
Literally.
Right? So, I mean, all the maps I've used for our campaign have been from somewhere. I've made a couple in the beginning, but the battle maps for sure I just steal from somewhere.
Gotcha. Yeah, I need a world map to populate with islands and ships, basically.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could.
I think there's a couple generators out there.
Definitely generators. Can't think of any off the top of my head, but if I do, I'll email you or text you, whatever.
Oh, yeah. Do we have time for a question, or talk about your campaign?
Yeah, we can talk about mine a little bit.
Oh yeah.
We are 90% of the way through Tomb of Horrors, I think.
Neck deep.
Yeah, I messed up a little bit.
Mm-mm.
You guys went the wrong way through a couple of one-way doors.
Aha! Well, they don't call us the door kickers for nothing.
Right? I was like, oh, damn, that makes sense. So now I'm thinking about replacing those doors somewhere else and having you finish the tomb or just skipping it entirely. I haven't decided yet.
Well, my thought are those areas, those traps, those doors, are they memorable? Because what really kind of draws me to Tomb of Horrors, like aesthetically and like culturally, is how unique some of the traps are and how wacky some of the rooms are. Like,
yeah, so that's what's leaning me towards pushing you through the rest of it, because the tomb is set up so you hit every room, just about.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a couple that are skippable, but generally it's a parade through the tomb in a certain direction. So I think I will put those one-way secret doors back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see what it has to offer.
Yeah.
I want to be dazzled, wound by the wacky traps.
Yeah. Yeah. So so that means we're probably looking at 2 more sessions. One with exciting rooms and 1 or 2 with a Sararak. I'm not sure how long that'll actually take.
Boss fine. Depends on how many minions he has, if we have to like move to get there, if we have to solve a puzzle to defeat him.
Yep.
You know, Dragon God style.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever played Demon Souls, but there's like they did it in the Dark Souls as well, where there's a boss that is less of a boss and more of a puzzle, because you just run around a room dodging like obstacles and like hazards and try to like break all the weak points, basically like smash these pots that have fucking energy inside them, and that's what kills him. Otherwise he's invincible.
Nice.
Which is on the surface a neat idea. In practice, in a single player game like Demon Souls, Dark Souls is more like, I don't know. It feels less impressive when you know the boss is just like an area hazard.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you play it like that, it could be interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely good ways to do it.
Right, and then especially like if you were doing it in a D&D game, make it so all that just brings his defenses down. All that just brings his defenses down, and then you
they get
have
to
the
wail
best
on
fight.
him.
Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I think this is a good place to cut it.
All right, then.
I have to do a couple things.
Yes, me as well. I got to get to work.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah. Like in an hour, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good one. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks. What were you going to say?
When do you think you'll have episode 3 up?
I finished it. I literally finished it in the beginning of our conversation.
Yay!
So I just need to send it to you.
Oh boy. I'll try and upload it before I get out of here. And then
Cool.
listen to it while I'm at work. Yay!
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Have a D&D-tastic day. Fuck off. All right. Later.
Bye.